Hey everyone, in today's episode, myself and Ben, we get into an email that we received from one of our listeners, and it sparks some pretty good conversation, and we're talking about how to navigate your loved one when they're in early sobriety. Maybe they've moved back home, and you don't know kind of what the right things to say or do is, or how to navigate the situation as a whole. We get into it, we give our perspective, we give some details on situations that we have been in the past, and think you'll definitely get a lot out of this episode, especially if you have somebody in your life that is early in sobriety and you just don't know how to navigate it. So stay tuned for that. And again, I want to tell you about our Family Reconnect program that is starting on August 1st. You can go to realrecoverytalk.com/reconnect to get more information on that. And if you want to do a live call-in show, you can email us live@realrecoverytalk.com. And what we'll do is we'll set you up and we'll answer any question that you have. And you can use an alias. We know we're getting into some touchy subjects with people. You can put your face on the YouTube video if you want, or we can just do audio. Entirely up to you, but it would give you an opportunity, to have a conversation with us over the course of 10 minutes. We'll dive into your specific situation. So if that's something that you're interested in, email us live@realrecoverytalk.com. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Also, Family Reconnect, August 1st, going live. If you're interested in that, you can go to realrecoverytalk.com/reconnect. This is a program that we put together, and it is to help assist you with your situation, with your loved one, if they need treatment or if they're in active addiction or they're in recovery, and you're struggling just with everything to do with the situation as a whole. We're here to support you through this through a curriculum that we ourselves tailored, asked all the questions, everything, a lot of our knowledge we put into this curriculum, and that's something that you will receive. You'll have direct access to myself, Ben, and Dr. Tambini. Dr. Tambini will cover a lot of the medical questions that you may have through this process. And all in all, it's just good support for you. And you have direct access to us pretty much at all times. So August 1st, we're only taking 15 people. realrecoverytalk.com/reconnect. Go there and sign up. Looking forward to it. Right, Ben?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good. You good?
Good. We're going to be leaving here soon. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I hate traveling, but that's something that I need to once I'm going, I'm all right. I think just the anxiety of oh my God, I got to get all this together to go somewhere. And
see, that stuff doesn't bother me. It's being on the actual plane that I hate.
Oh, see, once I'm on the plane, I'm fine.
Really?
Yeah.
No, see, I panic.
Well, see, I was already in anxiety last night about what I can bring. I'm like, oh my God. Let's say I bring my beef jerky and I open it before I actually go through security. Are they going to let me have it because it's already open and this, that, the other? They're going to steal my rice cakes from me.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, peanuts don't do it, man. Do they even give peanuts anymore? I think there's biscotti or
Biscoff. That's Delta. I don't think we're doing American Airlines.
Since it's such a long... Oh, I guess there's a layover in Dallas, so it's not a long flight.
Yeah, our flight to Dallas is, an hour and a half, I think. And then Dallas to San Jose, California, going to record with the Mind Pump Boys. That'll be exciting. And can't wait to share that.
I guess I have a fear of the unknown, Tom.
I have a fear of the plane crashing.
You know what you do, though?
What?
Always wear something warm on the plane.
Why?
Well, because if we, hit the top of the Rockies or something, you're going to be at high altitude. I'm going to be the guy with the jacket while everybody else got on the airplane in their sandals and shorts from Florida. Be like, bro, you weren't ready.
Are you really going to wear all that?
Oh, yeah, for sure, dude. I plan for the worst. I'm a prepper, remember?
Wow. Okay, that'll be interesting. So
I get on the airplane ready for worst case scenario.
yeah.
If that thing goes down, didn't you see that show on Netflix where they all had to eat each other and whatnot?
Yeah, that was interesting.
The worst part would have been like freezing the whole time.
What show was that? They were like going to play soccer, or no?
They were in Chile, Argentina, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, let's get into today's topic. We received an email that we wanted to discuss, and Ben's going to go ahead and get into the email.
Yeah, so we received an email. I'll leave the name out. I'm not sure if she wants it shared or not. I guess she probably doesn't care, but I don't want to make assumptions. Basically, the end of the email says, I'd like to see an episode on this. So I'm like, oh, why don't we just cover this right here? I'm going to skip the first part and start right here. I'm going to Al-Anon for 6 months now. Just got a sponsor, working the steps, and also involved with Lit. Lit is Love in the Trenches. They're a group that we've, had. What have we done with them? Basically,
well, we had Sean on
webinar.
The pod. Well, we're doing the webinar. Sean is the one that founded it. It's a nonprofit organization for primarily families and loved ones that have somebody in active addiction or has lost somebody from addiction.
Yeah.
It's called Love in the Trenches.
So this individual is clearly doing the work on themselves. And then she put, would love a podcast on early sobriety for loved ones and the addict. And let me elaborate here. It is hard to figure out how to navigate being out in the world. My son loves live music, but really feels he is not in a place where he can go to a venue, bar to listen to music. Even restaurants, as his history involved food and liquor. Alcohol in this way is uniquely hard. It is everywhere. Eventually, he'll be equipped to abstain, but I credit him for knowing that right now he is not there. As a parent, he lives in my house. I do remove all alcohol. She has done that, but I enjoy an occasional glass of wine. When is that okay, if ever? I'm not expecting an answer, just suggesting some ideas for a podcast. So let's start in the beginning of this. She's doing the work. And I'm going to come out and say I'm glad that she asked this question, because this always comes back to bring a third party. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like she's doing anything wrong. However, there are some things that I may go about a different direction with, if you will. Let's talk about first. I think it'll tie in together. Let's talk about him wanting to go to live music shows, stuff like that. He's abstaining from that right now, and what her responsibility is in that. And I got to agree with her on this one. That is something that he's come to his own conclusion on, that he's not comfortable with doing. And that is solely up to him. We can try and influence as loved ones, like, oh, you maybe shouldn't be going there, doing that. Today, me and Tom, we can go anywhere and do anything so long as we have good reason to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like I have no issue being around alcohol today. Absolutely zero. It doesn't cross my mind that I need to take a drink just because I'm around other people drinking. But that is not the equivalent to early sobriety. Early sobriety, I do agree with staying away from that stuff, because what we do is we find ourselves in a situation where we're trying to steal vicarious pleasure through others. For instance, one of the big ones, a lot of people that come through treatment oftentimes go to these EDM festivals, electronic dance music stuff, raves, if you will. Exactly, Tom.
Or also Boots and Cats.
Yeah.
Do you know that one?
Let's hear it.
Boots and Cats and Boots and Cats and Boots and Cats.
Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
All right. I almost started fist pumping there.
Yeah.
Point is, we go there with this idea that we're going to capture the spirit of older days. Oh, I used to go to the rave and get high. Now I'll just go sober because I do love the music. And I can speak to that on a personal level. Like, I still love electronic music. I was really big into the rave scene in my teens. And, I still listen to that music today. However, I don't go to that stuff anymore. I've been one time in my over 13 years of sobriety, and that's when I had 3 years sober. I went to a 2-day festival over in Tampa, experienced it, and part of me felt sad watching other people. And, it was a good experience. I had fun. I went with sober people, but it just wasn't the same. And for me, I personally need to move on from that. Time to have new experiences in life, not trying to capture old experiences sober.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said there. I mean, it's music in and of itself is very influential on many levels. There's, we have some sort of emotional and physical response to certain types of music. And I've oftentimes referenced this, where when I was drinking, I listened to like 80s hair bands, Def Leppard, Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Rat, the list goes on. And I associate that music with a certain type of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And after I got sober, I've gone to these concerts sober, and I still like the music, but I don't like the emotional or mental state that it takes me to. Because I can tell you, and coming up on 14 years of sobriety, every time I listen to Def Leppard, I think about Tony's Lounge. I think it puts me back in the place where I listen to this music most. And so I've gone to the concerts and they just aren't the same, and I went to the concerts in active addiction, and then I went to the concerts sober, and it's just not the same. Recently, I went to Dave Matthews Band, and I mean, I'm not a huge Dave Matthews Band fan to begin with. And to be honest with you, like, I'll never go again. I mean, it was just pot was everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere without smelling weed, which that in and of itself doesn't bother me. Like, I personally like the smell of it, but just the people there, and I was in the lawn. So, and I do think that this is worth spending 30 seconds on. In most concerts, they're at least at our venue here, which is, I think, it's called I Think Amphitheater. They have the lawn, and then they have like the seating. I think if you're sober and you're maybe on that verge of like early sobriety to mid sobriety, which there's no even real time frame on that. It's something that you have to decide on your own. It's worth the money to pay for a seat and not be in the lawn.
Yeah, you won't be spending your money on booze anyway. You might as well get the seat.
Right. And the reason I say that, and I think most venues are set up this way, the lawn tickets are, it's just everybody's kind of packed in, and depending on the type of concert, if you're into rock, there's mosh pits and stuff like that. Last year, I went and saw Slipknot and bought tickets at a seat. I wasn't involved in the mosh pits, wasn't involved in all the crazy hustle and bustle that's taking place in the lawn. I just think it's a more safe and secure type of atmosphere.
So let's dive a little bit deeper for a second. Rewind. You were talking about how Def Leppard brings you back to Tony's Lounge. Now, there is a specific thing that happens, and it's referred to as euphoric recall.
Right.
When you were at Tony's Lounge having drinks, because of the alcohol, you were in a state of euphoria, correct?
Yeah, or a state of total inebriation, blackout, but yeah.
So, with that being said, music in particular is I'm not even going to say most of the time, it is linked to life experiences. I'll give you an example. I didn't like electronic music until somebody dragged me to my first rave, and I had an experience with it. I didn't like country music until I went to the chili cook-off with an 8-ball of Coke in my pocket and hammered from the night before, and had an experience with it. Music, you tend to, if you look at all, songs bring you back to a memory.
Yeah.
And what addicts and alcoholics in early recovery need to be wary of is euphoric recall. What happens in the brain on a neurological level is that they hear a music or they're in an atmosphere that gives them a little tingle in their brain that says, ooh, I remember this reward center. But really what it was the alcohol, it was the drugs. So euphoric recall is something you can't 100% avoid it, but you shouldn't put yourself in those kind of situations. Like, just to call it what it is, there are certain songs when I listen to them, electronic music in particular, I ate a lot of ecstasy in my day. Like, certain songs, a part of them will come on and like my hair will stand up on the back of my neck, even to this day. For someone in early recovery, that is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. I'm nearly 14 years clean, and I can process that like, oh man, yeah, that wouldn't be good. But in early recovery, dude, I get those oh man, I remember the good times. We forget the bad times. We remember the reward. Our brain neurologically remembers the reward, the pleasure center. And that's why we got to keep ourselves out of those situations. And the difference is, I'll refer to the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I said it earlier, we can go anywhere so long as we have good reason for being there. Like, we go to a wedding, for instance. When I go to a wedding, I know there's going to be alcohol there, chances. People are going to be getting drunk. I go to the wedding, I hang out, I eat the food, and then I bounce. I'm not the guy hanging out and dancing afterwards and staying and closing down the open bar. Like, I'm out of there.
Yeah.
I'm the one that takes the kids back to the hotel room now. You know what I mean? And that's the difference with somebody who has time and someone that doesn't. I actually want to touch on this really quick. I had an experience on 4th of July. I literally witnessed this. So in my community, we have a community pool. It's a very nice pool. It's like resort style. And, there's big old gas grills out there. Real great place to have a cookout. It's palm trees, lawn chairs, the whole nine. Like, you feel like you're in the Bahamas when you're at my pool. There is a halfway house group of guys. I get one of them has a parent that lives in the community, and the parent allows the son to come and be at the pool. Well, he's currently living in a local halfway house, but he brings all the guys with him, usually about 10 to 15 guys. So for the past, for a couple months, I pretty much see them every single weekend there. 10 to 15 of them, they show up, and I'm just going to call it what it is. This pool, again, I referenced it as resort style, kind of like Bahamas looking. They kept showing up, and a couple months ago, I was like, this isn't a good thing. They keep showing up here every weekend. And people at my pool, they drink. That every weekend, it's the same faces, the same people. Somebody brings out their, what are them little speakers called?
Bluetooth speaker?
Their Bluetooth speaker. Yeah, there it is. They put on their whatever music, drinking music, and, let's call it what it is. People are partying. So they're showing up every weekend, not drinking. 4th of July, they're there. 4th of July, as you can expect. There's a little bit bigger crowd than normal. Everyone's letting loose a little bit more. All of a sudden, all these guys, like, they've gotten to know me as somebody in sobriety, because I recognize a few of them from the rooms and stuff like that. I'm talking to them at first, and they're sitting by me. Then all of a sudden, they all disappear. They're sitting on the other side of the pool because they don't want to be by me anymore. All of a sudden, I see one of them with a beer in his hand. One of the halfway house guys that I've gotten to know pretty well walks up and yells at like his halfway house roommate, like, yo, what are you doing? You could see, I couldn't hear him, but I could see his body language. Like, what are you doing with that beer in your hand? Not 30 minutes later, every single person that was there from that halfway house was drinking. And I saw this coming a couple months ago. They're putting themselves in an atmosphere where they should not be. And they got away with it. That's the thing. You'll get away with it for a little while.
Yeah.
Oh, I got away with it. Oh, I got away with it. Oh, I didn't drink that day. Then all of a sudden, boom, next thing you know, and it's sad, like, you literally watch one of them drink, and then all of a sudden, a dozen of them are drinking. It took one. and say, hey, this is a good idea. They were there every weekend. I'm willing to bet barely clinging on by the skin of their teeth, just drooling to have a drink on the poolside.
Wonder if they'll be there this weekend.
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing.
Misery loves company.
So I just want to throw that out there. Like, we see this stuff happen.
Yeah.
You know, early recovery is definitely different than long-term recovery. Me, I got no issue going to that pool every week. I bring my kid. Like,
yeah.
Those people that drink, they know I don't drink. It's kind of funny, actually. They're like, oh, the sober guy.
They have FOMO, you know?
Yep, that's exactly
severe FOMO.
Yep.
And the scary thing is that group of people that you're talking about, a lot of them are probably under the illusion that, well, alcohol was never really my problem. I'm a heroin addict or fentanyl addict or whatever the case is. So I can have a couple beers and, you know, I'll deal with the consequences if they come.
Well, but just the consequence in themselves, they're all going back to a halfway house drunk.
Yeah.
Was taking a drink worth the roof over my head?
If, in fact, the halfway house catches on.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, they may not care.
That's true.
They're sober living. So just because it's called sober living doesn't necessarily mean that it's sober living.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other topic we can discuss.
Yeah. So let's move on from that. We've probably spent too much time on this part of it. She goes into, where is it? He lives in my house. Do I remove all alcohol? But she was asking the question, but in parentheses put she has. So that's thoughtful of you to remove the alcohol. And I'm not going to say not to do that. But keep in mind, at the same time, it's also not our responsibility to shield an alcoholic as well. For instance, like, I do appreciate the fact that you removed alcohol from the house. That's a good thing, so don't take this the wrong way. But at the same time, families shouldn't have to change their lifestyle for their loved one. My mother removed all the alcohol from the house in early recovery. Today, she'll have a glass of wine in front of me. There is a difference. She was asking specifically about early recovery versus long-term sobriety, so to speak, and how the loved one has to be. We shouldn't, as a loved one, you should not be tiptoeing around their new sobriety. It is 100% their responsibility. In theory, you should not have to change anything. And I'm going to go to an extreme example. Let's say that mom shoots heroin and smokes crack, and her son comes back. Even in that situation, it's son's responsibility to say, hey, I shouldn't be around this. Let me find some other options. Thankfully, he has a supportive mother and family. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is on the alcoholic, on the addict, to take full responsibility for their recovery and the environment that they put themselves in. The one thing I will throw out there, too, again, like, you haven't done anything wrong, so to speak, but the other reason that you shouldn't have to change your environment is because there's environments where he can go. He doesn't have to be living with you.
Right.
In fact, I would probably say
he shouldn't be.
He shouldn't be living with you. Because and we've talked about this in past episodes with the enabling. Don't do for them what they can do for themselves. And it is vital that an alcoholic addict starts to build their own life. Generally speaking, can you think of any times, Tom, where an alcoholic or addict in early recovery has gone back to mom's house and stayed sober?
Yeah, I can. I mean, it's so there's two issues there. There's one that's obvious, the relapse potential. But we have to dig into that a little bit and say, okay, well, why is it a relapse potential? The reason that there's relapse potential there is because chances are if and let's just use this situation, this young man completes, whatever treatment he completes and moves back in the mom's house. Where's the accountability at? Where's the sense of community? Anybody can go and complete treatment. That's easy. It really is. It's what happens after treatment is what's most important. And if he moves back home to mom's house, is he going to meetings? Okay, yeah, and maybe he's going to 1 or 2 meetings a week. Does he have a sponsor? Well, he may or may not. Is he working steps? I'm not really sure. Is he meeting new people that are sober? I don't know. If he is meeting new people that are sober, how much sobriety time do they have? Is he surrounding himself with people that have quality sobriety, or is he surrounding himself with people that like he was in treatment with? Because there's a vast difference there.
Let me touch on this too. I think this is, let me use the specifics. The part that I read was that I had actually responded to the first email. And the part that I read was her response to my response. But in this case, this individual did detox and skipped all the other levels of care and is doing intensive outpatient from home. So there was a jump from detox to intensive outpatient, which, hey, if it's his first time in treatment, which I'm not sure if it is his first time in treatment, it sounds like it is, so I'll go ahead for sake of this and make that assumption. He's already skipped the opportunity to learn how to build community. You know what I'm saying? Like, he went from detox, which is a lockdown, you're in 4 walls, you're really not learning anything other than, the whole point in that is to get you off the drugs and the alcohol.
Yeah, dry you out. And then after detox, you're going to intensive outpatient. Yeah, that is not the most effective route to go. A lot of steps got skipped. A lot of opportunity to not learn new things, but start applying new things got skipped. So I would be curious how much application is actually getting done in this case. If we took an inventory of his recovery and said, what are you doing? What are you not doing? That's good for your recovery. I'm willing to bet there's not too much being done for recovery. I could be wrong. But if someone like me or you sat him down and said, are you doing X, Y, Z? And, she did say he is sober in capital letters. And I'm not doubting. Maybe he is doing great. I don't know, but I'm saying we have to look at it from our perspective as professionals with a lot of experience, personal experience as well. There's a difference between sober and dry. Yeah.
Chances, generally speaking, with the thousands of cases that we've treated, chances are that this is more of a situation where someone's more likely dry than actually sober.
Well, there's what you said before about applying, tools and stuff like that you learn through the treatment process. I think 2 things can be true at once. One is you can be sober, but you can also be sober and not really advancing in life.
Correct.
And I think that a lot of times parents and loved ones, they fail to realize that not only does your loved one have to get clean and sober, but they also have to start figuring out how to build a life for themselves. And when somebody goes off to treatment, that is a good opportunity for families and loved ones to say, hey, listen, you're in treatment now. This is on you. And everything that happens from this point forward is going to be a decision that is made by you. And as your mother, as your father, as your husband or your wife or whatever the case is, as your loved one, I love you and I love you so much that I'm not going to stand in the way of you rebuilding your life or building your life. Mm-hmm. And again, we don't know specific details in this, but I do know I've had a conversation with her on a couple of occasions. Moving back into mom's house wouldn't have been my suggestion. Again, it's easy for us to sit here behind these microphones and preach, but it's removing a lot of opportunity. He could have completed treatment. He could have, done 30 days of treatment or detox and res and gone into a sober living home. In the sober living home, if it's a good one, which there are good ones out there, don't disregard what I said previously. There are good sober homes out there, just like there's some real shitty ones. But if it's a good one, they're going to hold your feet to the fire. They're going to make you go to the meetings. They're going to make you get the sponsor. They're going to make you work steps. They're going to make you have some sort of service commitment. They're going to make you work. They're going to make you pay rent. They're going to make you clean up after yourself. They're going to make you build community and hang out and like all these things that sober living is designed to do that he doesn't have to do now. Like he can come and go and sleep in his comfy bed at home, and mom may make him dinner at night, and like there's just no. So my question would be, what is the plan now moving forward? Because once you let them back in your house, it can be very hard for you to get them back out of your house unless they relapse. But like, imagine this conversation. Mom and him, they're sitting at the kitchen table and mom says, "Okay, I think it's time for you to move out." What do you mean? I'm sober. Why do I need to move out? You made me go to treatment. I did treatment, and here I am. I'm sober. I'm going to my meetings. I'm, doing all the things for my sobriety, and now you're going to throw me out? I'm doing so good. And then mom sits there and is like, "Oh, gosh, yeah, that's kind of true." It puts you in a tough spot.
And we apply the same thing here with our model of treatment. I mean, one thing that we face all the time, and we're set up better to handle the situation. How oftentimes do we have clients who are doing great in the therapy? When they sit down with their therapist and they're going through underlying issues such as trauma, emotional regulation, all that stuff, they're doing very well. But then, and they'll tell you, "Oh, I got a sponsor. I'm working steps. I'm going to my meetings." We have one of these cases with us right now. Will not, and I can't wrap my head around it, get a job or retain a job. Like, "Oh, I got an interview. Oh, I got an interview. Oh, I got an interview. Oh, I got the job. Oh, it fell through because I didn't call them back in time. Oh, this, that." At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what therapy you got, what sponsor you got, what meetings you're going to, because if you can't provide for yourself, it's Maslow. I bring this up once in a while. We learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs in health class in 5th grade, right? Like, everybody's heard of it. The bottom of the pyramid is food and shelter. The top, very pointy top, is self-actualization. You are not going to get to self-actualization until you've learned how to provide for yourself. Treatment, like we do, all levels of care, all encompassing, we're hitting every single part of that pyramid. Right now, this situation essentially is not, the bottom part of the pyramid's not there.
Right.
If you're not learning how to provide for yourself, let me talk about this for a second. I suggested to one of our clients who has been discouraged by his sponsor. He's like, "Oh, I don't think my sponsor's taking me through the steps. They went out of town, for a couple weeks out of the country. Haven't been following up." And I threw it back at him. I said, "Well, what accountability are you taking for learning the steps yourself?" "Oh, well, that's what a sponsor's for." So let's go back to the history of this. I suggested to him to listen to Joe and Charlie speaker tapes. They're from the 80s. I think they met in the early 80s, maybe the 70s. I forget. But anyway, Joe and Charlie were talking about how Alcoholics Anonymous formed. And originally there was the big book, In the big book, there was no such thing as meetings, no such thing as sponsors. The whole point in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is it was a manual, not a novel, a manual for getting sober. So they would mail it out to some guy in California. They would mail it out to some guy in Texas. They would mail it out to some guy in Florida. Those individuals would do the work as it's laid out in the program of the book. And then what ended up happening is they went out to find a sponsee, and it evolved into all of a sudden there's meetings and fellowship. So what has happened over the course of time that people need to realize, there's a difference between the program and the fellowship. And I get a little disenfranchised and disappointed sometimes to see that this isn't being harped on more. But AA and 12-step programs in general started off without meetings, without sponsors, without fellowship. It was a program for a new way of life. Then meetings come along and people start finding the joy of fellowship and going out to Howley's Diner after the meeting and all of a sudden it goes from a program that's teaching a new way of life to a fellowship of people who don't drink. Big difference. Real big difference. All of a sudden the program gets forgot about and you're just in a fellowship of people that don't drink. If you ask me what I want, Tom, do you want to be part of a fellowship of people that don't drink? Or do you want a whole new way of life that is going to be banging and exciting?
I want a whole new way of life, Ben.
That's right, Tom.
I just went to Howley's.
Did you?
Yeah, a couple days ago.
I was disappointed the other day. Where was I? Oh, I took Weston to football camp because football season's coming up, high school football. And my dad came out and met us out there. I got both kids. And my dad's like, let's go to Howley's afterwards. My kids don't want to go to Howley's. What kids don't like Howley's, bro?
Oh, man, my kids love it.
I know. Cooked in sight must be right. That's their motto. They have no microwaves.
You know what? I got their wings.
Banging.
Damn, dude, their wings are good.
All right, let me hit you with this. I'm going to tell you a secret.
You're going to tell me the chicken tenders.
Yeah, I already told you.
I got the chicken tenders not long ago, and I was not impressed.
What? They're not on the menu. You got to order them so that's why I bring it up. Dude, the chicken tenders are awesome.
Oh, I don't know. The wings were good, and then I got the brisket burrito. That was okay.
That's the one thing on the menu I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, it's like it's a burrito stuffed with brisket, mashed potatoes, like corn, beans. I don't know. It's different.
I don't think they got the right ingredients because I love a brisket burrito.
Yeah,
just
like
the
a
combination
real
of the stuff that they put in there.
I might go over to this taco truck actually and get a burrito. We have one of the best taco trucks right across the street from our studio. I don't know the name of it. I have no idea. I just know what I like. 1 carne asada burrito, please, and 2 pastor tacos.
All right, Tom, focus. Let's get back to this.
Aren't we done?
Can I make a closing statement?
Sure.
To the individual that wrote this email, you have done nothing wrong.
No.
Nothing wrong. I want to make that very clear. In fact, I opened up with discussing you are going to Al-Anon, your working steps, you got a sponsor. Freaking major kudos there. Major kudos. You're doing the work on yourself. Part of this as well is, Tom and I, we've seen thousands of cases. We see what best possible results are and how to get there, best strategies, best path to take. That wasn't my path. You're a one and done for treatment, so maybe that's yours. But I had to have my experiences. My parents had to have their experiences. This time, and maybe it'll work out. I'm not saying that this won't work out. Maybe you will sit at the kitchen table and say, okay, son, it's time to move out and build your life. And he'll be like, okay, Mom, I got it together. Let's go. That could happen. It could absolutely happen. Or, let's say worst case scenario, drinks again. Don't repeat the same plan. Hey, guess what? We tried this last time. Last time you wanted to go just skip from detox to IOP. You wanted to do IOP from home. We allowed that to happen. I met you in the middle. This time, we're not doing that because it didn't work. So essentially, we're getting to check off the boxes with things that don't work. And we use that in interventions too. Sometimes I'll meet people in the middle, but there's an upfront contract saying, hey, we'll try this and meet in the middle with some of your terms. However, let's make a pact right now. This is not my 100% recommendation. So if your way with your modifications doesn't work, we are reverting back and you're going to do the plan that I've laid out for you 100%. It's part of the process.
And let me just say my final thoughts and then we'll wrap this up. I firmly believe the reason I was one and done is because I did everything the way that it was supposed to be done. Yes. I didn't bypass anything. I did all levels of care. I did sober living and I was in some sort of sober living environment for a year. That's why I think one and done. And yeah. I was mentally, emotionally, physically, completely beat up from booze.
Let me follow up on that. This is why you could go back and listen to some of our episodes and what questions to ask about the treatment process and what to look for in a treatment center. Because I'll share this. The treatment centers that I went to in my first experiences, the way that they were structured are not what I would recommend. And you guys and our listeners hear me talk about that all the time. I was in a lot of situations where I was put in a 4-lock walls, very controlled environment. Ben's doing great. Boom, all of a sudden, life experiences, and I'm out to the center put me out to the wolves. And it's the way that they were structured. Could I have stayed sober 100%? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming them because you can stay sober anywhere. But it's very important to know that you're going to be getting all levels of care through an entire treatment process.
Yeah. All right, let me just do some homework things before we wrap this up.
Got it.
Okay. The last episode that we released, it was myself, Ben, and Stevie Buckets, and we just were kind of having some fun conversation, I guess. And the title of it was just Random Ass Conversations, RAC, R-A-C. Okay? I had fun doing that. I think we should incorporate those more. I'm curious to know from our current listeners if it is something that would interest you. It's not going to be recovery related. I mean, we'll tie it in, sprinkle it in, but we're going to talk about whatever, is on our mind. Maybe it's personal struggles that we have going on. Maybe it's something in pop culture. Maybe it's something with sports, yada, yada, yada. I liked it. I think it was fun. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. So I'm curious if other people, want to know what goes on in our brains that's not recovery related. So that's number one. If you did like that, email us and let us know. Second thing is the live call-ins. I do want to start implementing these live call-ins. So if you want to ask a question on air, you can email us live at realrecoverytalk.com and we'll do the question live. It's not live, but we'll implement it into the YouTube video and stuff like that. And we can either go with your face or without your face. And if you want to use an alias, you can. I get it. A lot of this is some touchy subjects. So if you don't want to use your real name, you don't have to. But I think that would be cool to do. Third thing, definitely family reconnect. And I think the person that we were referring to, and I know she'll listen to this, probably a perfect candidate for this type of program. realrecoverytalk.com/reconnect to get involved in that and get some information. And the guide, obviously, realrecoverytalk.com/guide. 5 things that you can do to get your loved one the help that they need. And I think that's it. Is that it, Ben?
That's it, Tom.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.